And he just pulled out the sledgehammer and absolutely smashed me, just broke me down in front of everybody on stage, and with a lot of compassion, ruthless compassion, and saw through all my bullshit. I was not wanted. I was abandoned and I was not enough. From that moment on, I was a seeker. So I lie on this table and this woman held my head and I just felt grace. And then this big ravine in my heart just opened up and all this emotion that I've been sweeping under the rug just came out. Life will come along and punch you in the nose, and if you're disciplined in the art of being sober in the face of suffering and go, okay, this suffering's not going to count for nothing. I'm interested in being the king on the throne of the kingdom of freedom. You're worthy, worthwhile, you're safe, loved, and wise. Whatever you have inside of you that wants to find an avenue to penetrate into this world, we need it. And you were not created by folly, created with a beautiful purpose, a why.
I'd love a dog, but I think that like, if I got a dog, that could be another kid. So I'd rather just keep having kids until that's maxed out, and so then potentially a dog.
Your wife suggested that you want more after this third?
Yeah, she has to, surely.
What do you think?
No, I think she'd be down to go another one, but I don't have the conversation with her while she's pregnant.
Right. Okay.
Or like early stage. You gotta tell timing. It's timing, you know.
Would you like? What's the number that you think you'd feel like you'd enjoy?
I'll try to get as many as I can.
10?
I love it. No, she won't go that much, but I think 4, 5, 6 would be a bonus.
Beautiful.
It'd be insane, but we'll see how we go.
Fantastic.
It's all in God's hands as well.
Fantastic.
But I think I'd love to have as many as possible. She comes from 5 kids and I come from 4. So there's a good chance she's used to it.
I want to get as deep as I can with you. I want to, like I said before we started, I want to like know you to a deep level. Let's start with as early as you can and get as detailed as you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was born in Perth, Western Australia, and I was adopted. So my biological mother, who I met later in my life, she got pregnant. She was single, and it was in the 70s. It was a lot of shame, and it was a very, very difficult time for a woman, particularly then, to be single and pregnant. So she was sent off to a one of those facilities when you were pregnant and single in the 70s, and then she had me and gave me up for adoption. She said later when I met her when I was 19, she said that she felt a lot of pressure during that time to give me up for adoption. My parents who adopted me, beautiful people. My mother was Australian from Irish, Scottish, English descent, and my father was a Polish immigrant and came across after the Second World War, and they weren't able to have kids, so they adopted me, and then they adopted my sister. In Perth, Western Australia, was just really flourishing, and then it was a small sort of city at the time, comparative, but as it started to boom, there was a lot of new suburbs opening up, so we moved out to the northern suburbs and started a life together. And at a young age, I remember I was 4 or 5, and my mother and father asked me into the front room, and they told me I was adopted. And then that was really the start of the story, the hero's journey. That information landed really hard because I didn't have a fully formed understanding of what that meant. And the compensatory story started to develop, and that was sort of the beginning of my journey as into the realm that I've started in my work and of being of service. So it was sort of like the beginning of it for me. And that was, like you could say, the primal wound of my own life story. That was something that played in the background. My parents loved me and they were doing the best they could all the time. I love sport. I love being in nature. Another early memory, Paul, since you asked to be detailed, is I remember bedtime stories. My mother, she offered me some stories about the Bible and Jesus, Lord Jesus's teachings, and also then at the same time she was reading me books on the Dreamtime, Aboriginal Dreamtime, and all the different mythology of the indigenous people of this land.
Yeah, wow.
So
at what age was that?
as young as I can remember.
Yeah, wow.
And they also gave me a subscription to National Geographic, which was amazing.
Wow.
I just I'm incessantly curious, so I was just so fascinated about particularly indigenous cultures and nature. So that really sort of started my, I guess, teased the curiosity in how other people live their lives and how they experienced this thing we call being human.
Just want to draw back to something that you mentioned. So at 4 years old, you found out that you were adopted. First of all, what were the emotions? And after, like, the leading weeks and years coming after that knowledge, was it like a big bomb dropped, big bombshell to your life? Like what was the effects after that?
So I can talk from this perspective now as an adult, but I think what would be in that moment, like I said, it was very difficult to understand what that meant. So with a very sort of underdeveloped sort of perspective, I jumped to an idea that in some way, shape or form, I was not wanted. I was abandoned and I was not enough. So they were sort of the core ideas. Anyone that's adopted would at least dance with those for a little bit.
Yeah.
So
is there a way you could drop that, like as a parent could drop that news to an adopted child that wouldn't give them a sense of abandonment?
That's a really good question, and I'd love to give you an accurate answer, but I'm just a walking conglomerate of opinions here, so I can tell you from my perspective, I felt like maybe I didn't have enough awareness at that time to really understand what it meant. So I jumped to human beings as particularly when we're in that state of still forming our personality and our perspective, we protect from separation. So being liked or being loved or valued or admired, what it really represents is us being a part of a tribe, and a primal survival instincts is, we've got a better chance of surviving when we're together with other groups of human beings. So being separated or being under the threat of being separated, that's why a lot of people don't like public speaking, because they'd rather be in the coffin than speaking at their own funeral. Because of the fact that people could judge you, and then that could mean something which would cause you to feel separated or not connected. So we developed these stories from a lot of primal sort of survival instincts. So what I could say to that in a whole from an adult perspective is, I was very young, but my parents were doing the best they could at that time, and they wanted to be transparent and not for me to be living in a lie. So that's a really powerful intention as well. So to acknowledge that, so I can see both sides of the story from this perspective. But as a young person at that age, it was like, I must have done something wrong, or I'm not enough, or there's something wrong with me. So therefore, here comes the performance to please everybody, to fit in. But also gave me a great level of compassion and empathy and understanding for other people.
If you're serious about energy, recovery, and long-term health, listen to this. C60 supports your cells by helping reduce oxidative stress and by supporting mitochondrial function, which is your body's energy production. One of the few supplements that we personally take daily.
We only talk about products we actually use, and Carbon 60 is one that stayed in our routine. For us, the difference showed up in recovery, clearer thinking, and overall day-to-day resilience. If you have been looking for something that supports your body at a deeper level, C60 is definitely worth exploring. Could they have done it at a better time? Like if they waited out, say, another 10 years and then told you when you had a bigger awareness, it's going to affect you very differently and completely change the outcome of your life, like where you're going. So what would happen if they waited till like higher teens? Is there anything in that?
Sure. Yeah, you could look at it from that perspective. One thing that's really helped me with that is it couldn't have happened any other way because it happened that way.
Yeah.
So everything else is conjecture and speculation. And I can say that now after going through, a lot of very difficult times, being confronted or reminded or that being rewounded in my life along my path. But maybe when I was older, maybe, I like that word, Jonathan.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, well.
It's Beautiful. In regards to like now, like we're talking like 4, 5. What was like? Did it have any impact on like schooling?
So I was very sensitive to begin with.
Mm.
It's just my nature is to be very sensitive and empathetic and compassionate, and so. But then I became an expert at reading the room, because if I could read the room, then I could judge whether I was safe or not, and then I could start to shift the narrative to if it was feeling uncomfortable, like maybe I was under threat or there was potential for me not to be connected, or so then you start to adopt a performance and become a shapeshifter and a people pleaser. That's one of the ways that can manifest. So yeah, sure. I made sure that I was an overachiever, so I was always getting applause. So then I felt valued, and then my identity was heavily hinged on an outside validation.
So did you find it took you a little bit longer than average to become the truest expression of yourself because you're always trying to people please? Is that something that you obviously as a grown man now look back and realize that that's something that hindered you being who you really truly are?
I'm still in a work in progress right now.
We all are.
I'm remembering my true nature every moment and reminding myself that to drop the performance and just be, and how powerful that is.
Was there a pivotal moment?
This always, I feel firsthand experience is king. So in my life, when I've gotten my feelings hurt or I felt betrayal or all these experiences that would re-wound that or remind me of that, it also, it takes me to a place now of feeling sad that I ever felt that it was a good idea to abandon my true nature. And it's then like chasing something by not being me will not get the satiation or the fulfillment or the connection I'm looking for because it was not an authentic expression of me. So it's a really sort of backward way of trying to connect by not being yourself. And I'm sad for the times where I felt like it was necessary for me to feel safe. But I can understand why.
Yeah. I feel like now looking back, you'd say that's formed you to be who you are today. So it's all just a story in your life to make you who you are today. I feel like so essentially it's all just one big blessing. And you going through the adversity has made you who you are today. So essentially it's all just one big blessing.
The other day I was in an Uber and the taxi driver said this, you catch pearls of wisdom from out of nowhere all the time. And I always love those moments. And this gentleman said to me, because he asked me if I had kids and I don't have children. And he said, it's a test to have children and it's a test not to have children. So like you said, it's all a part of this journey. But one of the things that also gives me comfort is suspending the compulsion to label it good or bad. To just stay mid-conversation. And mid-conversation, let's wait and see.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So if you didn't experience that, then you wouldn't have been driven to performance. And without the drive to performance, then now at this stage in life, how can you just be? But now you can just be with all the experience that you've got. So the just being is an ultimate state of being.
So contrast is what I feel like you're talking about. So I know what it's like to perform, and feel like I'm continually discovering what it's like to be even more like myself.
Yeah.
And the contrast between those two parallels, you could say, it gives me an understanding of myself. It gives me a deeper understanding. Self-gnosis for me is what it's all about.
And people go through their whole life without that perspective. They might go through and see everything as terrible, and that's their whole life ends up terrible. To have that knowledge is because of your story. So yeah, essentially just being is a blessing because you're not just like trying to be why me for everything, or you've got that perspective to go through your life and understand there's no good or bad. Everything, like the worst thing for every guest that we've had on, not even one has not had this story where their biggest adversities have become their biggest blessings. Everyone has the same story in sense of that. So yeah, I feel like
that's beautiful that you even recognize that. But Paul, the thing is that if you just give it enough time, if you jump to conclusions and say it's good or bad, it's like I don't have super positioning, so I don't know all things at all times, always. So I say that's why I like to say maybe, or let it play out and spend a little bit of time. But once again, there's no growth without challenge and adversity.
100%.
And life has got a habit of punching you in the nose, but what you do next is the only thing that counts from my perspective.
I feel like that is the perspective. That's the most important one. Life is always going to have adversity. It's just, that's the test of life. That is what I feel like that's one of the biggest things that we're here for, is to go through that adversity. But if you can have the perspective of adversity equals growth in the moment, as in not later, in the moment, I know, everything's fucked right now. But I know future me will look back and be like, hey, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here. And I feel like that, to understand that as a human being, not many people do. And to have that, I say it a lot, it's a superpower to have that knowledge. It's I don't think I could give someone better advice than that, to fully grasp that. Not just say it, but fully grasp it. It's an incredible lesson to have in this lifetime, I think.
So I leverage that a lot in my life now, because when you've had a few repetitions, you get a sort of a little understanding what lies on the other side, and you can start to see patterns. But sterilizing that of emotion is really helpful. It's like, okay, I'm going to make this suffering count. So what is the teaching? What is the lesson? What is the opportunity? How am I going to evolve, grow, learn, expand, or let go, or accept, or recognize that I just don't know. And my need to know is an incessant monkey playing the Rubik's Cube. And I can just let it go and surrender and be okay, and take it all with a pinch of salt, and particularly take myself with a pinch of salt.
I know this is going to be a good conversation, because we've stopped at 4 with so much to say. Let's continue. Let's continue.
Just quickly, can you explain what self-gnosis is?
So knowing yourself.
Yeah, okay.
On a deeper level, if you look back at all the greatest teachers in human history, that would some way, shape, or form appear in the messages that have been handed down through eons to us today. So having a deeper understanding of yourself, I would proposition the fact that our relationship with ourselves is the same one we have with everyone and everything. So if you know yourself on a deeper level, then you can have a deeper understanding of this experience called life.
Does the word stoicism mean anything to you?
Yeah, it's one of many beautiful ways to perceive, or a beautiful lens to have an experience through this this human this human teaching that we're having, this human schoolroom that we're experiencing.
A question, I'm just going to go on a tangent.
Go for it.
A question that was coming to me before we met, and I'm like, I want to ask, because Jonathan did mention, like, this guy's going to blow you away, and I thought I want to get as deep as possible, and I was just literally just sitting there thinking, like, what is the deepest question I can ask, not knowing much about you, and the question came to mind was like, and we're getting real early, but like, what do you think happens? What's life after death? What do you think? Where do you think we go?
Okay, so I've never died.
Just perspective.
I can tell you, I've had plenty of bufu experiences, which I feel as though for me personally is the closest.
Can you explain what bufu is?
So the bufu is a toad in Central America, in Mexico. They spend 9 months of the year underground. I like to say that they spend 9 months underground, not hibernating, but meditating. And they come up and they mate and feed, but they harvest like a saliva from the membrane of their back, and it's got it's DMT 5-MeO. So it's a chain of DMT. And it's a very, then it crystallizes and you can smoke it. So when you smoke it, what happens is, for me, I've done all sorts of plant medicine, and I see it as a tool. Before ayahuasca was cool, I was in the Amazon in 2003. I had done a 4-year apprenticeship with a gentleman who was one of the first pioneers bringing indigenous medicine into the West, and he created a curriculum. He was a PhD out of Berkeley.
Wow.
Alberto Vialdo. And I've done a lot of different types of plant medicine. For no reason I'm saying this not to flex or anything. It's just been a part of my story.
Of course.
Because I'm particularly stubborn. and I think I know a lot. So these things were really helpful for me, but it was all the integration and process work. That's a cliff note for another tangent. Anyway, going back to Bufu, so the 5-MeO, the experience is very unique because it's not particularly lengthy, depending on your metabolism.
Just similar to normal DMT, as in like it is just normal DMT experience?
Well, it's different.
It's different, okay.
So what happens and I can only speak from my firsthand experience, and other people have said similar things, is your understanding of, first of all, your body, and proprioceptively where you are in space, it diminishes and then it starts to centralize. And then your awareness starts to merge with infinite creator consciousness, and then you become one. And I feel as though that could speak or point at the very least in the direction of what happens when we die. So you're nowhere and you're everywhere at the same time. And from that place, then I just have always consistently had an experience of my heart would just open, and any sort of patina of any forgetfulness or confusion or illusion around my heart gets blasted, cleansed and blasted away. And then it's not particularly visual, it's not auditory, it's just a sense of being one with all of creation. So I would suspect something to that effect happens.
I love that. I really do. I have similar perspectives. I've had that exactly what you just described. I've had that just through meditation. So exact experience. I've done DMT. I've done, a lot of other plant medicines, but through meditation, I've just felt like just an all-knowing of just like being and just nothing and just bliss, pure bliss, and my heart space opens up, and very similar experiences.
Yeah, it sounds like very, very similar. Yeah.
Just the perspective too, it's like, when you're dreaming, you're asleep, you don't really know you're sleeping. You're just in this state of awareness that you don't know you're asleep, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, I was dreaming. I feel like when we die, we have that moment like, oh, we were just dreaming. And then like, we're welcome to the real world, whatever that looks like.
So that's my firsthand experience. But then you've got the Tibetan Book of the Dead or the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and a lot of these great wisdom teachings about that whole ritual of death. And particularly now, it's something we turn away from. And you could say that the fact that we die really gives that richness of the value in this experience of living. It's like looking at a mountain range and going, if there's no peaks and troughs, then what defines, the beauty of the peak is the troughs, so the contrast, that idea. And also the beauty of having a beautiful, triumphant death, a beautiful, magnificent death is something that we don't talk about. It's something we avoid. So that was something that I had a lot of trouble personally with. So that's a dear friend of mine suggested that I went and visited this guy in London when I was living there. And he is most incredible acupuncture clinic. And he was a true plant medicine aficionado, and had dedicated his life to really going deep and understanding plant medicine in all different forms, or psychedelics in all different forms. But he runs this clinic for a lot of people that are at end of life that have got terminal diagnosis. So, of course, I'm incessantly curious. As I mentioned before, I had to find out. And when I did it, what it did is just gave me this, I felt like I had a knot around this, and then it just softened and allowed me to make peace. If you ask me straight up, am I scared of death? Yes, but not as scared as I once was. I'm still working with it.
Yeah. I feel like I had.
What's the fear in death? Is it like is it just the unknown, or is it like fear of the moment of dying? Is it like the 10 seconds before you die, or is it the fear of just?
For me personally, or in general for people?
Or for you personally?
I think it's got a lot to do with this identity that I've built up in my life, and dismantling that. If I'm really transparent, I feel as though that's got having a say in the matter. It's like, I'm this important sort of thing. I've got this importance or level of value or worth that is, it's a misunderstanding. And then the other piece of not wanting to suffer or be in pain, I think that it's got a little say in the matter, that's got a voice.
Mm.
Looking into the unknown is not something that it's something I actually value and really, that's where the curiosity is like, what's on the other side?
Mm.
You know, what if it's like amazing? What if it's like, this is the really difficult suffering piece, and that is just unity and oneness.
Mm.
And that's what I guess the Bufu experience that I keep returning to is like a raft that I can find some comfort in. It's like, oh, it doesn't have to be this idea in my mind. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Mm.
Maybe it's like the Bufu thing, and maybe it's just the best ever.
Yeah. For me, I used to suffer with a little bit of anxiety around that question before meditation. And for me, it was the unknown. It was like, okay, the unknown, like, you know, am I going to see my parents again? What's going to happen to me? I used to have a lot of anxiety around that question. And until I started to meditate and have that moment, that was until like I just let go of that anxiety and it never came back again. I was like, it is what it is. And,
Beautiful.
but yeah, let's.
If I really search into it, I don't spend too much time thinking about it over the last sort of decade or so. But it's, you know, it's hovering. You know, I'm hit middle age now, and you know, the first part of your life is about building and growing and aiming and achieving certain things, boxes you want to tick, and the second half of your life, I feel, is more about meaning, and that starts to come into play as the meaning that the rest of my life gives, and that's a part of being mortal.
Love that.
Yeah. I want to divert back to your story. Teenage years.
Okay, so
teenage years.
I love
like,
playing sport. I love Aussie rules.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the first time I ever kicked a footy, it was just so magical. It was so great. I love playing Aussie rules. My grandfather played for South Fremantle, and then he played for WA as fullback, and he taught me to fish. So then I got to sort of starting to spend more time in nature. I loved camping, the outdoors. I love my mates. I love surfing. So those years were very, very happy. You know, a lot of exploring my physicality and attempting hard things in the physical realm and learning about my body. And in school was not so much. I didn't find school, the topics, stimulating. I just really enjoyed the community and the friendships. And yeah, that was and Perth at that time, beautiful place to grow up. You know, safe and beautiful weather, and you know, it was a great experience. Yeah, it was not sort of super colorful in regards to things happening, but you know, I was aware that I had, like I touched on, an empathy and a compassion for other people, and I was able to connect to all different types of people at school. So then that put me in positions of leadership, like school captain, and I happened to be good at sport, which always helps, and things like that. So starting to sort of understand leadership on a very basic level and responsibility that comes with that. So.
And what age did you like meet or rekindle with your biological mother?
So when I was 19, so I was very curious and thinking about closing that loop. And at the time, the story I had running is I wanted to know if I had any brothers or sisters. So then I'd finished high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had I gave myself like a year off. And during that time, I had a lot of thinking time. So I didn't tell my parents. I did it just privately, and I went through an adoption agency, and I met my biological mother, and I met her parents at the same time, and she told me the story of what happened, and it was at that time it wasn't closure, but it made it fit into made it convenient, a little bit more convenient, a little bit more easier to handle, but it was still very present. What I was looking for at the time, it didn't solve.
And what were you looking for?
Completion, feeling to feel complete, to feel whole. And I was looking outside of myself for that, which if I could have a time machine and I could get in that and I had 30 seconds to speak to myself, then I'd say looking for that outside of yourself, it's only going to take you so far. It might take you from A to B, but if you want to go to B to Z, then self-gnosis or going inwards is the place.
I love that. I love that. Did you keep a relationship with her after that?
Yeah, so I kept a relationship, but the twists and the turns, the plot,
here we go.
it goes deeper. She always told me that this one gentleman was my biological father and he was engaged in another relationship at the time. And I had hence moved away and I was living in the UK, and then I went from the UK to the US and I came across this lady who went to school with this gentleman's sons. And then through her, I got their contact, and one of them did a DNA test and we were not related in the slightest. So then the parachute of that story just gave out, and then I was back in free fall again. So new senses of confusion and betrayal.
How old were you at this point?
So that was into my 40s.
Wow.
Yeah, so quite some time. Previous to that, I'd reached out to my biological father and through a letter, and I had written a book at the time, and I sent him a copy of the book because I thought that would be a great calling card, and he must want to meet me if I've written a book. And he just sent a letter back to say I have no recollection of this, and
wow.
And so that was another layer of looking for something outside of myself. I kept that sort of like a trend or a pattern understanding. I was looking for this resolution outside of myself to make peace, for things to be in right relationship with myself. And I kept looking outside. There was another pebble of sort of teaching and lesson that because like I mentioned before, I'm stubborn and determined, and I can carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, but I can continue to be looking outside of myself for some kind
At what age were you like looking outside of yourself until, like, when did you have this realization of self-gnosis?
I would like to say it stopped, but it's still, I'm human. I'm a human being. If my resources are low, if I'm confused, if I'm jet lagged, if I'm low blood sugar in a hole, dehydrated, I've had an argument with my wife or the things that I thought were going to go in one way went another way.
Like you said if you could go back and tell the younger version of yourself that, just to stop looking outside, look within. Was there like a self-awareness moment where you realized that you needed to stop looking without and start to, and I guess, well, like you say, you're always on that journey, and you're never going to fully grasp that. But was there a moment where you just started to dive deeper in?
So I had gone on a working holiday with a girlfriend.
Sorry, what age was this? Sorry.
This was 24 going into 25. Cool. So I was a manufacturing chemist at the time. I was working for Big Pharma in Perth, making pharmaceuticals. And I was really like, I hated that job. But it was like I went into it with the best intentions because it was to be of service. It was to help people. But I was in a clean room all day and I just had my eyes showing, and there was no human connection. So, and I was dating a girl at the time who had family in London, and she inserted the idea, would you come on a working holiday with me? And I was like, she really gave me permission to get out of that prison that I had created for myself under a false belief that that was the right thing to do. So then I got a degree in personal training on the side because you weren't able to do the main career. And I went to London, and so then I started as a personal trainer in London. I just gave away the pharmaceutical industry. So as I started to do that, along with that was a thirst to, so then, of course, if I'm going to do personal training, I'm going to be the best personal trainer in the world. So I was like, I'm not only going to know everything about exercise, but I'm going to know everything about how to motivate you to want to do exercise. And that led me to be very curious. And then I just started my self-help rabbit hole.
Mm.
And during the course of that, I was working with a lot of people in entertainment, and I got an invite to go to the Cannes Film Festival. I was there in the Cannes Film Festival. It was spring, and they do these pop-ups. And on the beach, there was this it was a spa doing different treatments, and this woman was offering cranial sacral therapy. I was like, cranial sacral therapy, I don't know what it is, but sign me up, you know? So I lie on this table, and this woman held my head, and she held my feet, and I just felt grace. And then this big ravine in my heart just opened up, and all this emotion that I've been sweeping under the rug just came out. And I was like, oh my God, I've been kidding myself all this time that I haven't been addressing it. I've just been stuffing it down and stuffing it down and stuffing it down. So that just like shook me, because I had never had a profound experience like that before, you know. At the closest thing I'd describe is winning a grand final playing football. It was this elation, but this release of emotion at the same time. But I'd never had it on a personal level to that extent. So what had happened is then that evening I was sort of bewildered by this experience, but I had been invited to this very sort of flashy party on Paul Allen's boat. Paul Allen started Microsoft with Bill Gates, and he sold it, and he was a billionaire and had this incredible yacht. And I got an invite, and Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics and him were playing a concert on the stage on their super yacht.
Wow.
And it was the basketball court had been converted into a stage on this super yacht. And I'm there just really blown away by the experience. And I hear this Australian accent, this incredibly loud woman was annoying me, and she was, you know, laughing and having such a great time. And I was like, you got to be all really serious, because all these really special, important people were here. And then she come up to me and started talking to me. And she was from Kalgoorlie, and I said, what do you do? And she said, I'm a spiritual healer. And I said, what's a spiritual healer? So she gave me her card. And at the time I was doing personal training, I had an office in a hedge fund. I was working, looking after these 5 bankers. It was the biggest startup funded by Barclays in Sloane Square. And I had built in this incredible gym, and I had an office in their office. And I went back to London on the Sunday, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. What's a spiritual healer? And the two events, there was serendipity. It was tied together, and I couldn't shake it. So the next day, on the Monday, I picked up the phone, dialed the numbers, and I put the phone down. And, you know, I wanted to speak to her and find out more, because I was curious, because there was a part of me that felt incomplete. So I eventually called her up and I arranged a session. She lived in Richmond, out in sort of West London. And I went out there and saw her, and she just blew my mind. She was talking about all these things that I knew were medicine. It was cathartic for me, but I had no understanding or a concept or how they fit into the sort of the jigsaw puzzle of what I was experiencing. But what I did know is I was, from that moment on, I was a seeker. And I've been a seeker ever since. But that seeking journey's had many revolutions and many renditions and many evolutions. And now I just seek from my life firsthand experience, rather than self-help books or doing apprenticeships or sitting at the feet of very wise people.
Can you take us on that journey of all the apprenticeships? And
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was my next question.
Okay. So the first experience was with her, Carmel Greenwood, her name is. She's written many books. Loving Life and Letting Go, I think, was one of her major books, which is still a very poignant theme today. But she suggested I did this thing called the Landmark Forum. It was in early 2000s, and Landmark Forum was created by this gentleman called Erhard Werner. And it's a very, very strong sort of vehicle for somebody to confront stories and patterns and belief systems. And it's kind of savage. It's really direct and it's really abrupt from my perspective, just my opinion. But it also was really, really powerful for me because, like I said, I keep mentioning this the third time I've said I'm stubborn, and I'm able to find side doors and dodge around, sort of confronting things. So it kind of puts you on the spot to look at your stuff.
How does it work? Like, what's the modality?
So there's the first level is sort of 3 days, and it's a curriculum where you're sort of talking about things like something had happened in your life, and then you create a compensatory sort of perspective and belief system, and then some of those sort of sabotage you, and the ego is addressed, and so it turns you inward and it humbles you, and it's very fast paced, and it sort of it doesn't allow you to spend too much time thinking. It allows you to be nimble and move on and drop things and let things go, the story go, and then start to have more freedom through your perspective of what happened, and then what does that mean and how does that affect your identity. So the first sort of experience was 3 days, and it was like a quickening inside of me. I was like, I'm getting somewhere, I'm almost there, And then you do the 7-day thing. I think it was a 5 or 7 day experience. And that is just like 12, 14 hours a day, just introspective work, through workshopping, through breakout groups, little activities and exercises. But a big piece of it is standing on stage with a leader or a coach, and he kind of dismantles you on stage.
Wow.
So I didn't go up on stage the first time I was there when I did the introductory, the 3-day. But then the second one, was this French guy, and he had a really thick accent, and I kind of put my hand up and I said, look, I'm having a really hard time understanding you, but I'm over it now, and I'm having more of a connection with you. And he's like, come up on stage. And he just pulled out the sledgehammer and absolutely smashed me, just broke me down in front of everybody on stage. And so one of the things is one of the things I was always challenged with is controlling a narrative, or how people perceive me, or how I look, or if I'm looking good, if I'm winning, people are liking what I'm doing. And so I'm feeling safe, and I'm feeling connected, and I'm feeling pretty good about myself. He just pulled that rug from under me, standing up on stage, and just broke me down with a lot of compassion, ruthless compassion and empathy. It was just really honest and saw through all my bullshit.
How long did it take him to do that?
Oh, probably 5 seconds.
Wow.
Like,
can you give us an example of, like, I know it's a long time ago, but it's something that he like was picking at? Like, what did he pick?
well, just touching on those themes that I said about looking good.
Yeah.
About,
But how do you know so quick?
being righteous. Well, when you know, you know. And, his level that he was working at, he was masterful. He was a master at what he did. And he had the ability to see through someone's mechanisms that they were using to deflect from being truly seen or exposed.
Probably like Tony Robbins kind of.
So you could say that
experience,
ask, anyone that's a skilled practitioner that's done something like this for a long period of time, they'll have the ability to offer you ideas that will start to make you feel a little bit antsy, and when you're shuffling, then you're onto something. So that was a real big opener. And then at the same time, I still had Carmel Greenwood going in the background, doing the sessions with her.
Which she's part of the same modality, though. This is just a 7-day course.
She was the spiritual healer that encouraged me to go and do that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So then after a period of time working with Carmel, I feel as though that a time kind of came to a natural close. And I started writing for a newspaper in the UK at the time. Newspapers were still a big deal. So I got a phone call when I was at the gym from the editor of the Sunday Times, and they had a big readership, 4.6 million readers. And they said, would you write 1,000 words a week for us? And I said, yes, even though I type with these 2 fingers and I can't spell, I just said yes. So then I called up my mum in Perth and I said, will you edit these articles for me. So I type them up and send them to her, and I can't spell, and my grammar's terrible. You can ask my mum and wife. Thank good for AI now. And
She was your
check.
chat GPT.
Totally.
That's crazy.
So then that article it gave this curiosity an avenue to penetrate into this material world. So then I got bored of writing articles. They wanted, the column was called The Fitness Guru, and it was 1,000 words a week. But I was really interested in indigenous cultures and Chinese medicine and what they did in sort of the Vedas and how they did Pachacama or Ayurvedic medicine, and I was really interested in about Chinese medicine and all these fully formed sort of systems that would address all these different aspects of being human. So that started to open me up in being very curious about shamanism.
Mm.
So then that led me to start to go to some lectures, and I was in Brazil for New Year's Eve. I think it was around 2002, 2003. And I went and to dinner with this couple, and his sister was a shaman in London. And so, of course, when I go back to London, she's the first call. And then I went and met her. And then she said, my teacher's coming into town. Come and sit in one of his lectures and see what you think. And I went and just witnessed raw power. And I was just like, I was really infatuated with the powerful piece of it, of shamanism, the influence and the control of the human condition. And
within themselves?
Both.
Even with, like, they could control.
Well, you can influence someone. You can you can be very convincing. How about that? That was really interesting, that power piece to me. That's what caught but that was not at all what it was about, but that was the hook. You know, as a young man, still much younger than I am now. And I was fascinated by Indiana Jones, and I wanted to be Indiana Jones, and I wanted to explore, what these indigenous cultures did for healing, and I was super curious. So they have a thing called the medicine wheel in the 4 different directions, and you go through this curriculum which looks into these different aspects of the archetype of a human being and exploring it. And then at the end of that, they had a trip to Peru. So this is 2003, 2004. And I'm like, I'm going to Peru. I'm totally going to Peru. No one was talking about Peru, or it wasn't on anyone's radar, but I was like, I'm going.
If you're drawn to these conversations, chances are you care about how you think and how you feel. Our C60 was created for that intersection, supporting your body while you do the work. It's linked below.
So at the same time, I was kind of doing Chinese medicine and Qigong, and that had gently started in the background, but shamanism was the main gig. So So then I went to Peru and I did ayahuasca for 10 nights in the River Madre in the Peruvian Amazon, and it just was wild. I still, the experience that is unfolding today.
Oh, wow.
It was so powerful. And then, but that wasn't the most powerful thing about that trip. And then we went to Cusco and then went up into the sacred mountains above Cusco. They have 3 sacred mountains, and that is the lineage that he brought down. It's the Quechuan, the Quechuan people, the Quero tribes, and the wisdom keepers. And they went up very high up into the Andes when the conquest happened, and then they started coming down the 80s, and that's when he interacted with him, because he was doing a paper and on their traditions, and then brought their curriculum to the West. So sitting in ceremony with them, and just the purity and the beauty and the connection with nature and the harmony and symbiotic relationship with the natural world and all their teachings and wisdoms, and being at that altitude. And yeah, that was really a wild time in my life. And I came back to London so charged from that. But then I switched to Qigong and really focused on Qigong.
Before you go too far, I just want to know, like, what was the most powerful part of the ayahuasca trip?
Oh, it was just one evening. once again, I was like, I'm going to have twice as much tea as anyone else. And I'm going to sit upright in the most perfect lotus position. And I did that night after night. And one night I vomited and I saw a big bag of green worms come out of my mouth, and they call it hoocha, heaviness, heavy energy. And I saw sort of the traditional things that people would describe, a lot of snakes, and I saw a lot of pyramids, and I saw a lot of sacred geometry and things like that. But I didn't really have a profound experience. And then the ego just dropped. And then I finally just on the last night, just lied back on my sleeping bag and, just had my hand in my trackies and just looking at the stars. And I just had like a tiny little bit. And it just was a huge experience where, it's no bigger than anyone else's experience. It was just very strong for me, particularly. I can go into detail, but it was kind of for me. But it was a very powerful, unique experience for me.
Yeah.
And what it did is it kind of opened up, because everything is through mind.
Yeah, of course.
Everything is through mind, the Hermetic principle. We experience everything through mind. Even me looking at you sitting here now, I'm interpreting you through a lens. It's not actually what I'm seeing. So what it did is just rearrange the furniture in my mind. How about that? So I just saw things differently.
It's amazing how you said that you wanted to have the most, and then it proved to you that, like, it had this, like, it's like it had to prove that to you. It waited to the last night where you had just a little bit.
I've been humbled so many times in my life.
It's cool.
So then Qigong and fasting came along. They were my next teachers.
Fasting.
Yeah. So I started when I was still writing for the newspaper. I got really interested about fasting, and I found this incredible retreat in Koh Samui in Thailand. And the whole thing. It was enemas. It was really, really awesome sort of program.
How long was the retreat?
It was 9 days. So I started off doing their juicing and coconut water, and they were doing mainly coffee, enemas, and a few others, and was combined with Thai massage and steam and meditation and Qigong.
Yeah. Wow.
A little bit of gentle yoga and swimming in the ocean. So the first time I did that, I like you touched on, you don't need plant medicine to have a wild experience. It's a tool. But meditation, breath work, fasting, just you clean the vessel, and then more information come in. So that then, that was a whole other thing. Then I started doing, what happens if I just drink water for 9 days? And
for how long?
That.
9 days.
9 days. And so that was an incredible teacher. And then having sort of that really strong idea that you need to eat and, consume and all that really challenged. And that was, once again, I was, in hindsight, even just talking it now and sort of feeling like I was just really interested to test what was true. Because we get told a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that was, my sovereignty was starting to find its own sea legs.
It's a big perspective shift, fasting, as in realizing like, wow, we really don't need that much food. Like I recently did 15 days, maybe like 3 months ago. And I said it on a podcast a couple of days ago, like I wasn't the same coming out of it that I was going into it. Like it completely shifted my whole reality, like from every aspect, spiritually, physically, emotionally, eating, like it completely shifted everything. And it's such a simple thing. Like it couldn't get much easier than just not eating, like as in, and it's such a powerful, powerful thing to do, but not many people do it. Or even like when I was telling people I did 15 days, like, what's wrong with you? Like, man, like, what's wrong with you? You're over consuming so much. Like just, I feel like it really does shift your perspective and can do that forever. Like such a powerful, powerful tool.
2 things that stand out from that for me is food is entertainment. Like really sort of connecting with food on a different level. But we want to add stuff. and we think that's how we do better, is to have more, add more. I'm really interested about what happens when you take stuff away. So it's just a contrasting idea. It was strong. So that played a role in my journey, and that led me to then, really go down the Qigong rabbit hole. And I was doing sort of Bikram yoga and all sorts of these sort of physical expressions that, along with meditation and things of that nature, but they were physical expressions that weren't necessarily built around aesthetics. They were to come home into your body and really sort of feel at home in yourself.
Yeah.
So that was a wild period. And during that, I was doing everything under the sun you could imagine. Like, I came across this guy called Paul Chek in the early 2000s, who's been an incredible, consistent mentor in my career. His curriculum is, it's such a beautiful, fully formed system. I did all sorts of things like remote viewing in the early 2000s, ultramind training, different, every type of meditation you could imagine. Then doing retreats where there was no talking for 7 days for Vipassas, and doing things in caves for 3 days where you were sort of like literally having a death, but no medicine or anything involved. It was just taking away or subtracting all the stimuluses that were contributing.
Obviously dark, like it's dark inside a cave?
So, yeah, and it was not a cave, it was a black room that was blacked out for 3 days.
Wow.
Where you don't speak, the room's completely black.
Oh my God.
So it's very confronting.
They say you can, you see your demons in that anyway, because the light completely, we depend on the light. What's that like, actually?
There's
3
nowhere
days
to hide. There's nowhere to turn away from. You're confronted.
Oh my God, wow. And no human connection.
No
You're on your own in the room?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's insane. And no concept of time, nothing.
Wild.
Wow. What was that? Let's unpick that a little bit.
So, we prop ourselves up with a lot of stuff to do. So first of all, you're not doing anything. So there's no distraction.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is like the polarity of like what you were just saying with the fasting retreat. In my mind, I was like, wow, that's like the best way to fast.
Yeah.
They're taking care of everything for you. There's obviously things to do while you're fasting. So it sounds so good. This is like the complete opposite, where you're just faced with nothing. Food in the 3 days?
Why?
Food and water?
They had like an apple and some water that would get left just outside your door, but it's like strict no talking and
Far out.
So very confronting. You're getting to know yourself on like an imposed level, and then all the stories that start coming out, because we've got such incredible imaginations, and unfortunately we use them sometimes to not to our benefit. Now, I always like to say whoever has the biggest imagination wins, but sometimes that imagination, we can prophesize or come up with all sorts of ideas and scenarios that creates a framework for us to live inside. And particularly when you've got no outside input, then you ping ponging these ideas inside, and then they start to develop some momentum and some steam and spiraling, and next thing you know, you're having this wild experience of something that was just that you created, you made it up. So those get unraveled, and it's scary and feel lonely, and but then you have a sort of like and if you've done fasting, or let's say you've just had a fever, that's another way for a transformation, is having a fever, because it's like you're being held down, and the fever can make you delirious, and you can get hot and cold, and you're feeling a lot of suffering and being tormented by this illness, and you have this tension, and then you have this healing breakthrough, a healing moment, and that when you all of a sudden you go to sleep and you wake up and you feel remarkably better. It's sort of like you've gone from a threshold through that portal, and you're residing on the other side, and you have a collective exhalation and relax. So you have a moment like that, and then it becomes easier, and that's when the cool stuff happens.
Wow.
But it's just depending on, like I said, your level of willingness and acceptedness and courage and bravery and faith and trust in yourself in those moments, because you're confronted with yourself.
Does that moment come after like an intense experience in there? So like, is it like you have the ego death, or you have some revelation or some self-gnosis that then from that point on, it gets easier and the fun stuff happens? Or is it the other way around?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Like, as in, like,
Depends on the person, you know.
Yeah,
It's such a personal experience.
For you, like you mentioned, the fever. Was there a fever moment for you where you had
I had a high level of anxiety and like I want to scream, I want to break out of this room, but it was all self-imposed, you know. But it was helping me let go. It was a sort of an acceptance thing. It's really hard in life when we don't accept life and we keep banging up against life, right?
Yeah.
Really, really difficult.
I know this is probably a question that you could just say maybe to, or, you know, who knows.
I'm probably pissing people off listening. I'm sorry, forgive me.
Because
I just want to clarify this. The last thing I want to do is tell anyone what to do.
Yeah, of course.
Because I really don't want to be entangled in anyone else's. And my encouragement is like, this is what I discovered, and go and check it out for yourself.
I respect that, because if you inflicted that your experience on me, then I'm gonna have go into it with some expectation.
With bias. And I don't know everything. If anyone tells you they know everything, then they're full of shit.
Yeah.
I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I'm making it up as I go. I don't know. I'm doing my very best. Course. So there you have it. Like,
it's more just a perspective answer, and it's an open answer. But like, do you think that if you weren't adopted, you would have gone on this journey?
I could have been an asshole.
Yeah.
I could have been born into a very privileged family and not had any difficulty and not had the same level of connection and understanding of people and empathy and what it feels like to be different. It definitely wouldn't have given me the richness of experience that I've had, and it wouldn't have been as strong a driver in my life. It would have been maybe I feel, and I'm aiming in my life to have an experience that's based around creativity or being creative and experience. So create and experience, as opposed to, I kind of feel like human beings are trapped into this idea that we're here to consume and produce, and that's what it's about. That makes me sad when I think about that idea. And what makes me really happy is when I think about create and express myself and experience other people's creation and this beautiful creation that we live in, and this, even in this moment, having this experience is a beautiful thing, as opposed to trying to arm wrestle some kind of result and get somewhere and do this for anything other than just the beauty of this experience, of this exchange, and for me to understand your unique perspective, and for someone to hear my unique perspective.
Yeah.
But there has to be listening to begin with. Listening to ourselves, listening to others, as we know that we don't know.
So you acquired all this knowledge through your life journey. Obviously you went on a big discovery, self journey through all these modalities. How do you now use that for your life? Like, what did you do with all of that?
So then there was the next mentor that came along, and the next mentor. You know, I studied under this incredible man in Hawaii who taught me how to pray. I came across these different healers. Healers was something that I was really interested in, as this physical manifestation of their internal work. It was really because, once again, it was it was powerful, and it was entertainment to a certain degree. But I kept doing that until I realized that it was another cul-de-sac. It was another diversion. You know, the real work is when you go, okay, I'm not going to look outside, even though I stand on the shoulders of giants, and what I'm talking about is nothing new, is my unique expression of this human experience. But this has been contemplated for thousands and thousands of years by incredible human beings that have dedicated their lives to this stuff. But what I discovered for me is when I put that on hold. And then I was like, okay, let's just see what my life has to teach me. And when I just slow down and stop and see what life is, how it's unfolding, and I recognize that second law of the Hermetic principles, as above, so below, the law of correspondence. Then I understand my life is mirroring back to where I'm at and where I'm not free in my life. So where I'm not free, my life, my relationships are going to show me. And if I'm willing to be brave enough and have courage enough and to not get caught up in the whole thing and to see it, then I can start to have a conversation with it and I can say, tell me more. And that is a great conversation starter. It's like, tell me more. And then that helps you go inward and have more introspection and understand. But it's very difficult to do when when you've got kids and you've got a mortgage and you're surviving in this sort of circumstance that, you're consuming and producing. And it's very difficult to do. And it's not conducive to slowing down and being mindful to the level. I guess I'm kind of an extreme guy and I'm an anomaly, and I don't have kids, and I've dedicated my life to answering these big questions when I recognize they're not really to be answered from a perspective of to be solved or to be fixed, but to interact with and relate to. And then for me to test, my own free will and sovereignty and really explore whether they are true for me or not. And then still, guess what I'm going to say?
Maybe.
Do you feel like you have really good intuition?
I feel as though that I have less confusion than I once did.
I feel like you got good intuition. I feel like you read a scenario pretty quickly.
We'd still be recording, wouldn't we? Yeah, let's just jump back into it then. Well,
they
the only thing we're going to get interrupted is the door. It's not a big deal.
Right,
let's do a prayer anyway.
Yeah.
I'll do it when they come back.
Yeah.
They're going to come. We're gaining literally right now.
Nah,
just
yeah,
the
not for a second.
idea of it, we're gaining momentum.
Yeah, that's fair.
You like me to do a prayer?
I'd love you to.
That'd be amazing.
Let me just give you a little bit of background. So, I first moved to Los Angeles in 2012, and I came. I had a client. He was this incredible chef. He's no longer with us in this realm, but he's a beautiful man. His name was Kerry, and he said, when you go to Los Angeles, you need to meet up with this incredible Ayurvedic healer and teacher. She's Colombian, but she's her and her husband had a practice in Los Angeles. So I went there not long after I moved there. And I went there for an afternoon and I fell asleep on their couch. That's how comfortable I was. I felt like I was at home. And her name is Marta Sofa. And Surya Spa is it's a very famous, world famous spa. And they're in Santa Monica at the proper hotel. But when I was there, they said, you need to speak to this man. They described him as like a kahuna. A kahuna is the medicine man in the Polynesian traditions. And he does these prayers, and they're really beautiful prayers. And they're known to evoke these very strong experiences. So, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I was very curious, but at the same time, I was like, really? So they put him on the phone. And I was speaking to him, and I felt like, in the Matrix, when he went down the phone, he got sucked down the phone. I had this experience where my reality was bending as he was saying this prayer for me. And it's Ho'oponopono, and forgive my Polynesian friends butchering it. But the idea is coming into right relationship with your life and yourself and all your relationships. So it's making peace or peacemaking with your life. And the idea I touched on before, that your relationship with yourself is the same one you have with everyone and everything. So if you're in right relationship with yourself, then you're in your right relationship with your reality. And you could say that any illness or any conflict or disease is because you're not in right relationship with something. So you could say that nothing comes from nothing and something comes from something. So if you could imagine that you didn't have a good relationship with, a parent, and it was something that you had a fixation about. If I asked you to study for 8 hours a day, you'd become pretty good at that. And then if we have a thought that manifests physically in our body, we have a physical response to a thought. Like if you're worried that somebody's going to hurt you, then we would have a thought that would evoke a physiological response. Adrenal glands would kick in, blood pressure might go up, a heart rate might go up, and nervous system might become more activated. So all that kind of made sense to me. So when you make peace or you forgive something and then you bring it back into right relationship, so that disturbance comes into harmony, it comes into unity. And when you're in unity with something and you're in right relationship with it, there's no tension or no conflict, or there's no pull push. There's just flow. And you could describe it as a state of ease and grace. So like you touched on dis-ease, or you'd say a natural condition as human beings is one of ease and grace. It's in unity and harmony, but it's very difficult to achieve if we're really in the outside world and we're engaging these things, and we get hooked by them, by the stories or by the emotions or the feelings, and distracted from remembering our true nature. So when I say these prayers, for me personally, I feel like a sense of remembering my true nature.
Mm.
I'm going to use the word God, and you can do that with that however you please. And I say God for Jonathan and Paul. Please help them to forgive and release each other, and forgive and release themselves, and forgive and release all peoples, beings, creatures, and creations across all time, past, present, future, time, space, and dimension. Fill them with your love and give them complete peace, and help them love each other and love themselves, and be at peace with each other and be at peace with themselves. As God, we give you our love and thank you for your constant love and blessings. We appreciate and respect all of your creations, and we fill all of your creations with our love. We thank you, God, for your love. We thank you, God, for our life. We thank you, God, for all life. We thank you, God, for all of your creation. We love you, God. Thank you for loving us, and we love you, God. Thank you for blessing us. For Jonathan and Paul, I ask that you anoint, open, bless, empower, expand, lead, guide, direct, and protect them always and forever. Please and thank you, God. Amen and amen.
My own Matrix moment. When we got in the elevator, we said a little prayer, and I ran a little prayer with Jonathan. Obviously not a big one, but I thought to myself, man, I really want to learn how to pray. Like as in, like I want to be really powerful in my prayer. Like if I'm praying with someone, I want to be really powerful. That was my intention walking into this podcast. Like I want to take that on and learn to have a powerful prayer. And man, you just nailed that. Like that's exactly what I want to be able to do. So thank you so much. God bless you.
I'm not finished with you yet.
Oh, wow.
God, for Jonathan and Paul, I ask that you open their mind, heart, and being to your complete, limitless, bountiful prosperity and love. Please help their thoughts, words, and deeds be nothing short than your infinite possibilities, prosperity and love, and complete, limitless, bountiful prosperity and love. I ask as I am here, humble and before you, to bless them with the riches and bounty of your heavens and earth always, and lead them into your life and into your light and into your love and into your complete, limitless, bountiful prosperity and love, as we celebrate this life and all life as it is a gift from you, now and forever. Please and thank you, God. Amen, amen, amen. I'm going to finish with this last one. It's one of my favorites, and these are prayers from my friend and mentor for a period of time who really showed me a lot. His name's Howard Wills. He's a beautiful man. God, we humble ourselves and surrender to you as we give you our love and thank you for your constant love and blessings. Please show us the way, always, as we know we don't know, and we know that you do know. So before you, we humble ourselves and give thanks for your love, your help, and your guidance all the days of our lives. As we know we don't know, and we know that you do know. So before you, we humble ourselves and give thanks for your love, your help and your guidance all the days of our lives as we humble ourselves and surrender to you always and forever. Please and thank you, God. Amen. Amen. Amen.
So beautiful.
Oh.
So then you can make those prayers your own and play with them. But it was a very, very powerful time in my life. And I learned a hell of a lot from him. So beautiful ideas that are still powerful and with me today. But learning how to pray was very important part of my journey. Learning how to pray and create a prayer, a powerful prayer, and then send it off.
Mm. What is that quantum shift that we're feeling? Like, as in, can you feel that shift? Like, what if you could explain that? What we're feeling? What
coming home
be?
to yourself and letting all the noise quieten down and remembering your true nature, who you are, and coming into right relationship with who you are in this moment. So you're in sync with yourself and all of creation, but you're acknowledging certain things and surrendering. And
the room feels quieter. Like, it's honestly insane.
Do you know much about praying in tongues? Or what does that mean?
So I feel, for me, I have spent time with many different people that speak different foreign languages. And one of the most powerful things about learning these prayers and being around this teacher for that period of time and doing a mentorship and apprenticeship under him was the fact that he spoke English and that I could really, really connect with that. Not to diminish any other tongue, but for me, my understanding from being born and that being my first language gave me a unique connection, because all the times that I had experienced anything like that before with different teachers or practitioners or therapists or shamans or medicine women and men and wisdom keepers, most of them, their first language was not English. So I was always grasping at wanting to understand. But then now that's not so important to me now, but I had to have an experience where I felt I could really understand it. And then if now I sit with this beautiful Vietnamese monk in outside of Los Angeles, and he prays in Vietnamese, and it doesn't matter that I don't understand what he's saying. It's just really nice to sit in that, and it feels really good.
Like I mentioned earlier, Jonathan and I, we do this podcast to connect with people, but to also, that's our growth journey, to meet people like yourself and to learn and to get as much out of everyone as we can and to connect. I saw something brief. Pam put us something together just on you, and I noticed there was a small part that you've worked with a lot of high profile people. I think I saw Orlando Bloom, if I wasn't wrong. So when you're working with these high profile people, or when you're working with anyone, what is it that you do with them? Like, if I was to come to you for something, like what would be your advice, or what are you doing with these people as a practice?
So my first career, like I said, I was a manufacturing chemist, and then I went into exercise, doing personal training, and all these things we're really talking about today is my own personal journey. But when I'm working with someone, they're foundational ideas that have influenced me. But I also studied at Cornell University and things like this in leadership psychology, and I've done apprenticeships with incredible executive business coaches, and I'm so curious, and we just happen to really sort of come into a part of my life's experience that is very spiritual in its nature. But once I started to get to the point with the personal training, I realized that I kind of had ticked all the boxes. I had worked with a bunch of celebrities, and I'd gone on music tours, and I'd written books, and I made games with Sony PlayStation, and I was on TV and things like that. It was kind of cool, but then it became about the thing, the image, the momentum, the outreach, and maximizing that.
How were you able to clock becoming a PT? Like just something so simple. Like most PTs just, train someone in the gym. You've gone all the way to, news articles and training celebrities and all this stuff. How do you think you got there?
Saying yes. Yes to life.
To the opportunities.
Being open, being positive, super positive.
And wanting to be the best.
I also had a very strong driver that was, a piece of that was to be really for the applause. It was a big piece of that. So that, and also I was in London and I had nothing else going on. I broke up after the 3 months with the girlfriend. Then I went over there and I was just like, no way am I going home with my tail between my legs. And then I realized I was on a working holiday and I'm still in the spirit of one now. But so I either was doing personal training or I was studying or I was traveling. And that was just it was a real, a beautiful melting pot of all these unique experiences that evoked all these different perspectives within me. I feel as though if you ask me where I learned the most of my life, it was through travel and meeting people from different places and having these different experiences, but also being open to that. So then I got to the point in my career where I realized that the exercise was a byproduct of our thoughts, words, and actions. And if we can come into alignment with that grace, with our thoughts, words, and actions, then we're not going to be sabotaging ourselves or choosing behaviors and activities that were harmful to us and coming into balance. Then it really started to become about the mindset and the perspective and where we can free ourselves. So then naturally over a period of time, I started to go into the business world and I really wanted to positively influence the business leaders of the world because I feel as though that they supersede politics, like hands down. Like the business leaders of the world have more influence over us, everyday life, in my opinion, than policymakers. Because they employ us and we use their products and we interact with them more from my perspective. So if I could positively influence the CEOs of the world to be more benevolent, more conscious, more aware, more connected, really seek meaning rather than just a monetary sort of outcome, but seek a deeper meaning. And being aware of our environment and having philanthropic enterprises, that is very powerful. So that's where I've decided I wanted to turn my energy and my attention. So working with a bunch of different entertainment people was fantastic, but the majority of that work was more doing the personal training. But I feel like I have been doing the same kind of thing, coaching people. I guess you could describe me as a coach now. I've kind of been doing it the whole time, but different versions of that. And sometimes exercise happened and sometimes now it doesn't. I rarely openly pray for anyone. That's something unique that I shared because Jonathan had experienced before and he liked it. And
thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure to share that with you. It's something that's very personal and it's beautiful. I always pray in the back of my mind now. So that's one of the things that really helps me is if I'm always praying in the back of my mind, it's helping me remember who I am and not get drawn in and caught into confusion or forgetfulness. They're the two biggest challenges I feel we have as human beings is forgetting our roots and our wings. I'll say that again, forgetting our roots and our wings. We're infinite beings having a human experience, So if we keep ourselves in a prison through an idea, then my best remedy for that is to offer an idea that might give you contrast or create a paradox or create a confusion, which would challenge where you're limiting yourself or not freeing yourself. Because, gentlemen, where you're sitting right now, today you have everything you need. The only thing in the way of it is just a little bit of confusion and a little bit of forgetfulness. And that's not even in the way. That's just, it's a myth. It's a story. It's a apparition. It's like a ghost or it's not real. It's something that we created. So your energy goes where your attention is. If you turn your attention on yourself and knowing yourself on a deeper level, then you can start to go, I can see where I've just been not the best of friends to myself with that idea or not really helpful with myself with that relationship with that thing or that belief. And like I said, life will come along and punch you in the nose. And if you're disciplined in the art of being sober in the face of suffering and go, okay, this suffering's not going to count for nothing. So what I'm really interested in is a different outcome. So let's run an experiment. We were talking about that the other day, running an experiment. You know the best thing, Paul, about running an experiment?
Tell me.
There's no right or wrong.
Mm.
It's just let's see what happens. So you just take pressure of yourself, off of yourself. Because we put so much pressure on ourselves. I mean, I can at least speak from my own firsthand experiences. Sometimes the way that I've treated myself with internal monologue and ideas has been really rough and not forgiving and not gentle and not offering myself a second chance every single time. Not a lot of grace there at times. But when we're open and we want to do better and we recognize where we can adjust and improvise and innovate and use our creativity to solve hard problems like being stuck with a relationship or an idea. And also changing, our environment through whether it's as above, so below, like I said, if it was breath work or meditation or you did a cold plunge or you fasted or you just went outside for a walk in nature, that's a great thing to do. And then you change your physical environment, then your internal environment has you can catch a little window just to give it a little bit of a chance to have a second look at this idea that might be dominating. And then you can play a game I love to play. Let's play Slay the Idea. If you start to get religious about an idea, then it's a bit dominant and it's sitting on this throne, and that's not the throne of freedom. I'm interested in being the king on the throne of the kingdom of freedom. I don't want to be locked to an idea. That's why I keep using that word.
Maybe.
So do I know, am I sure about something? Maybe. Because I don't see all things at all times always. And when you do, it's like, then there's no other way to be or no other way to see it. And then you become righteousness in the eye, and then you start to put yourself on an angle. Like, I know, and I'm here, and I'm judging you to be wrong. And you're down here, wrong, not right, and you don't know. So then if we bring the playing field level and say, this is what I know from firsthand experience, and I can share that with you, but it's still an evolving idea. It's still mid-conversation.
Very powerful.
Yeah, and it's a common thing with like people who are so sure of, say, their religion, and then they think other people are wrong. Like it's a big thing where, like, with what you're saying. So, and they think they could just be thinking they're right based on their perspective but it's beautiful the way you put it. Like, I know I don't know everything, but I know what I've experienced. And I think that's the ultimate way to put it,
First-hand experience is king for me anyway. I can tell you, I've read all sorts of things in books, but until I've, fell over and scrubbed my knees and suffered a little bit, got punched in the nose by life, and then recognized I don't want to keep doing that, so I'd like to do it differently. So then you get humbled and surrender, and then you accept what happened and forgive it and make peace, and then open up to being creative with a different way of doing it, or seeing it from a different perspective, even. Really, really helpful, really powerful, in my opinion. It brings some more ease and grace into life, and it makes it a little bit easier, and you can take yourself with a pinch of salt, and you can take what happened with a pinch of salt. And
does someone need to be open for when you work with them?
I think that people probably wouldn't engage with me if they weren't to begin with.
Is that because they've been punched in the nose just before they engage, or?
Unfortunately, sometimes people come to me when they've got a really difficult circumstance, and that was the impetus for the initiation. And I really, really encourage people to be proactive with the way that they engage with themselves in their life, rather than reactive, like this terrible thing happened, like I'm going through a divorce, or there's terrible illness, or there's a loss, or there's a chaotic sort of circumstance. As human beings, we really seek convenience as a part of our primal necessity to conserve energy. So we're not going to overextend ourselves unless there's a direct need. And the totem pole of needs is, it's like in our face. It's like, I need to eat now, so I eat, as opposed to you do your meal prep and you've got your snacks. This is just a different type of a mindset. That's just an example of the idea of, okay, I'm interested in building a relationship with myself and understanding, but normally that won't start unless you keep messing something up in your life. But to begin with, it takes a lot of courage and faith and trust in yourself to put your hand up and take responsibility. Say, I created that in my life. Even if I can't really draw a direct sort of correspondence to that, I understand that through the choices and through me being in a certain way, I created that circumstance.
I feel like that's the problem with everyone today, is like, they think they created only the good things. They're like, oh, I created that. But then when they look at the bad things, like, oh, it happened to me. It's like, no, you created that. You have to understand that whether it's good or bad, you created both things. I could sit here and talk to you for the next 5 hours, and your words are very captivating, but unfortunately we're out of time for today. But thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, man. It's been a beautiful connection. And like I said, this is why we do this, to draw knowledge from people, to connect with people. And it's been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. And to the people listening out there, you're worthy, worthwhile, and you're safe, loved, and wise, and you're clear, you're powerful and connected. Whatever you have inside of you that wants to find an avenue to penetrate into this world, we need it. We need creators. We need different perspectives, and we need you. And you were not created by folly. You were created with a beautiful purpose, a why. And I'd love to find out about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. I just want to add, like, you just said those words to the listeners, and I think coming from, like, I met you about a week ago and I had a similar conversation with you, and the words that you said, potentially at the time, I took them for granted. No, I didn't take them for granted, but what I mean is I think as a human, you just hear it and you don't necessarily like fully understand what you just said when you're hearing it. But the way you say things, it goes into someone's subconscious. I guess I don't know if it works if they're open or not, but those words go into someone's subconscious, and then it really like changes the way they think and feel. It's like you put that stamp on them. So I hope I didn't fuck it up by exposing it, but I really do. I feel like Paul's words are just, they hit deep on a level that our brain can't even sense that it's happening. And then those words go to like the subconscious, and then it does something in the background.
Well, deep bow to that. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you both.
Thank you, man. Before this podcast, we can end it here anyway. This is just conversation. But before this podcast, I was on the phone to Jono, and he's like, man, like, I'm fucking on. And he's always on, but like, he's just like, man, something shifted in me. Like, I can't wait for you to meet Paul. Since I had a conversation with him, like, everything's flipped upside down, man. He just did something to me. So God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
And like, if you want to, I know we don't talk good or bad, but it hasn't flipped for the good either. Like, as in, it's flipped in terms of like, it's caused chaos in my life, but I love that. I love the chaos, because it's like, I know through this chaos, I have to now pivot. I have to learn. I have to adapt. I have to create new ways and systems and processes and whatever it is, and it's actually like, it's insane. And like, as like difficult as everything is right now because of all of it, I fucking love it. And I'm like on the biggest buzz, like more than I ever would be if I was in a good state of life, but I know that this is the tribe and tribulations of like growth.
I'll choose just final word. Yeah, I choose truth over illusion, no matter how painful it is, man. Amen to that.
Amen to that.
All right.
God bless, man. Thank you so much. Lots of love. If you're still listening, we're giving away 5 free bottles of C60 to the first 5 people who comment reflection on any of our pinned posts. God bless. Thank you.